I know that every Star Wars show relies on CGI, but Andor's different from other Star Wars shows because it does things a little differently. It focuses on real sets and locations instead. Andor takes place 5 years before Star Wars: A New Hope.
Okay. We're gonna take her out in a minute, if you want to say goodbye. I'll have them clear the room, if you want to be.
And it's about the early days of the rebellion and has a large cast of characters. It looks better than some of the earlier Star Wars shows, like the Book of Boba Fett, which could be because Andor didn't use the volume, a new type of CGI. It's a product that was inspired by the LED screens used in Rogue One's space battle scenes. It makes more realistic backgrounds that change their lighting and perspective as the camera moves. The Mandalorian changed how this technology was used, and every Star Wars show has used the volume since then. But this might not be a good thing, since most shows have been called unrealistic and cheap-looking, and it looks like the volume's kind of following the same pathway here.
Is that the best you got?
How long we hang on, how far we get, how many of us make it out, all of that is now.
It's causing a lot of problems now. After The Mandalorian, Star Wars shows didn't use the volume right. During the first season of filming for The Mandalorian, it was a new invention that cut costs, loosened rules, and showed beautiful settings. It was a big step forward for CGI technology, but it also has some problems that filmmakers are still trying to figure out how to fix. First, the volume cuts down on the amount of space on a set where actors can work. It splits a soundstage into two parts, in the same way that painted backdrops do. In one part, there are real props and set pieces that the actor can use to act. The second part's the picture that the wall of LED panels shows in the background. This makes it hard for the actors to move around, which makes it more likely that they won't interact with the whole scene.
She told him sooner or later you were going to get yourself into trouble you couldn't talk your way out of. Then she told Grasso that...
No. Come here.
Obi-Wan Kenobi had a scene on Daiyu where Obi-Wan crossed a busy street, but he didn't do anything with the cityscape in the background. The lighting plays a pretty big part in the filming, and CGI gets in the way of that. And of course, that makes things hard for the actors. It gets difficult for them to see things in the foreground. Even though the LED panels give off some light, they're often not bright enough depending on how they're set. This makes the actors look flat or muted on the screen. The last thing I'd want to see on a Star Wars show is flat characters. They ran into this issue when the last fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in the last episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi happened at night on a rocky, barren landscape. Because of this, most of the scene was a gray color that was hard to see, unless the former master and apprentice used their lightsabers. Even though this color symbolism worked well with Obi-Wan Kenobi's themes, it made it hard to see the actors. That's exactly why Andor's being praised right now. It looks way better than Obi-Wan Kenobi or the Book of Boba Fett.
Kenari, mid-rim, abandoned after Imperial mining disaster. Mining, everyone died. Abandoned and considered toxic, Imperial prohibition.
Sure, the spaceships had to be made with CGI, but Andor's landscapes and interior shots were taken in real places or on built-up sets. Many of the sets had moving parts and functions that the actors could use. Both the actors and the audience should find it easier to get into the world of Andor this way. The actors could see the Star Wars world around them instead of just imagining it, and they could interact with it. Every shot should look real and grounded to you, letting you fully experience Andor's rough world. Even though the volume's an impressive new technology, the realism and size of Andor have already shown that Star Wars shows are better off not relying on CGI all the time.
The collar.
What about it?
It's high. You've had it raised.
I had it tailored.
Everything says something, Cyril. I've tried to make you understand that. You resist.
And it's not just limited to the magic on our screens. A lot went on behind the show's scenes too. Star Wars has always been known for its great stories, spellbinding visual effects, and memorable characters. Andor, the live-action series with Diego Luna, is no different. Tony Gilroy and his team put a lot of time and care into making this series as good as possible. To show how chaotic the early days of the rebellion were, when Andor went from being a thief to a rebel spy, the cast had to learn a lot of history, make costumes, and build a whole town. Behind the scenes of Andor is just as exciting as what happens in the story. Large sets are often made for Star Wars movies, but this time, a whole city called Phoenix was made for the planet Andor. It's a busy market city with junkyards, shipyards, taverns, and gambling halls. Like Mos Eisley, it is a wretched hive of scum and villainy. Andor did most of his business there before he joined the rebellion. This huge project took months to finish, as this behind-the-scenes video shows. It helps the actors and you feel like you're in that galaxy far away. It not only makes the show look like a movie, but it also makes it look much more real than anything on the volume. And because the show didn't use CGI, there was a lot of ease on set. The actors loved being in a realistic setting. When A New Hope came out in 1977, George Lucas made a galaxy far away that felt like a place where people lived. His future galaxy didn't look as clean and sterile as an Apple store. Instead, it looked like real people populated it. In the same interview with Empire, actor Diego Luna said it was beautiful to interact with his surroundings as an actor because everything is mechanical and feels real. On the show, Fiona Shaw, who plays his adoptive mother Marva, said, "The house of one of my characters is made from parts of old spaceships. I used to just stand around and look at it, but not all locations were easy to get to. In fact, some were way out of reach, and they probably needed a lot of traveling."
I couldn't sleep.
It's natural.
I need to be at my best.
Don't worry. The excitement will.
Some of the old Star Wars movies were shot in pretty harsh places like Tunisia, which stood in for the sandy planet Tatooine, and Greenland, which stood in for the frozen planet Hoth. Given how tight filming schedules can be, it's unusual for a modern show to film in places that could endanger the cast and crew. Coruscant and other places could be filmed on sound stages. Diego Luna also shared that the cast had to hike hours up a mountain to set up one shot, which was dangerous and a lot of work for everyone. Even though it was dangerous, he said it was like being on another planet. Andor's real life is full of danger, so it's possible that Luna was just acting out.
Ever built. It can't be jammed or intercepted. Something breaks, you can fix it yourself.
Hard to learn.
Yes, but once you've mastered it, you're free. We've grown reliant on Imperial tech and we've made ourselves vulnerable.
But some adjustments were made too. Other Andor real places were just changed because it was convenient to do that. When sets can't be built, it's sometimes necessary to look for a place that looks like it could use a sci-fi makeover and pick that one. When Andor needed a market square, they used E&E Industries at Pinewood Studios, which has been linked to the Star Wars movies for a long time. Some real places like the Cleveleys seafront got new doors and windows, or were painted to look like places in the Star Wars universe. I was excited to learn about this because I'll eventually be able to go to some of the places where the show was filmed and feel what the actors did. Of course, the actors enjoyed exploring their sets too. Since the city of Phoenix is such a great set, it's not surprising that the main cast members wandered around.
Aldhani has the unfortunate quality of being close to nothing and not very far away from everything. It's the perfect hub for distribution, if one were trying to take over the galaxy.
So who are we supposed to be?
Also, can you believe this show's got more than 200 named actors? Andor feels like a movie because it has an unusually large cast that isn't just made up of CGI characters. That's all for Andor, breaking old-timey CGI trends. See you in the next one.